Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to tonight's City Council Candidates Forum, featuring individuals who are running to serve on the Marion City Council as well as running for Marion Mayor. My name is Lydia Brown, and I have the honor of serving as tonight's moderator. I am a commercial broker for Skogman in my day job, and I also have the privilege of serving as the board chair for ICR Iowa, which is the Regional Economic Development Organization. And so I am very honored to be here tonight to serve as moderator. My job is to keep the trains running on time, and we have our first glitch in the system. One of our council member candidates was traveling for work and was delayed coming in. So she is coming up from the airport, but she was delayed in Dallas where they are having some pretty significant weather issues. So, as it were, we're going to go ahead and move forward, but when Colette gets here, I will allow her to introduce herself, but I won't go back to the questions that we've already had. So we're just going to kind of play it by ear, and this is the reality of a working council. So, onward. City Council members are responsible for adopting and directing city policy, which includes city strategic plan, approving the budget each year, adopting ordinances, and appointing the city manager, who is the chief administrative officer for the city. The Marion City Council consists of 7 members elected by citizens of Marion. 3 of the members, including the mayor, are known as council members at large. They are elected by all qualified voters of the entire city. The other 4 council members are nominated by wards and elected by only the voters in each of those respective wards. This year, voters will elect 3 individuals to serve on the council. This includes 1 city council member at large, a representative from Ward 1, as well as a representative for the Ward 3 council seat. This year's candidates for Marion Council at Large include Paul Draper and Grant Harper. Mr. Draper is the incumbent and unfortunately is unable to be here tonight due to some recent health issues. Candidates for Council Member Ward 1 seat are Colette Atkins and Dwight Hogan. Ms. Atkins is the incumbent. Mr. Hogan informed us earlier in the week that he is not able to participate in tonight's forum. Candidates for Council Member Ward 3 include Will Brandt and Michael Tope. Mr. Brandt is the incumbent. Mr. Tope also indicated that he is not able to join us this evening due to a previously scheduled event. So, again, a little bit unusual. As you see, each of the council candidates tonight are running against individuals who are either not able or declined to participate. So keep in mind that none of the candidates on the stage tonight are actually competing against each other for the seat. The first 50 minutes of tonight's forum, we will present questions to these candidates for City Council. Then, in the second hour, we will bring up the candidates running for Mayor of Marion, both Mayor Nick Abuasli and Challenger Mary Lou Pazor. Candidates will be asked a variety of predetermined questions. Additionally, we ask members of the audience to submit questions in writing by writing them on the note cards available in the room. And we have them, so just wave, and we will get somebody over to get you a question or a card. If you do not have a card and would like to submit a question, please raise your hand and we will get you one. Unfortunately, with the limited time we have this evening, we cannot guarantee that all of the questions will be able to be asked. We will not accept questions attempted to presented verbally from the members of the audience, or the media in attendance. Please use the provided cards. That we don't have much time. We're going to try to keep it as orderly as possible. Questions will be presented on a rotating basis, which will be most relevant for the mayoral candidates. This means each candidate will be provided the opportunity to have both the first and last remarks throughout the evening. Responses will be limited to 90 seconds. We ask that the candidates pay attention to our time card keeper in front of the room to help us move through as many of the questions as we possibly can. So, we're going to start with the softball question. Let's begin by asking each candidate to introduce themselves, provide a little background as to why they believe they would be the best candidate to serve in the City Council. And we're going to go ahead and start with Mr. Brandt, and then we'll go over here.
Sure. Thank you very much. Okay. My name is Will Brandt. I am running for Ward 3 City Council Representative. I'm born and raised here, so a little bit about me. Born and raised here in Marion. Other than a couple years, I moved away for work up to Wisconsin, out to Colorado, and then decided that I wanted to raise my little girls here in Iowa. So we moved back to Marion, or the area, and then raised them here. In 2004, I bought my house that I'm at now on 4th Avenue. So 15 years I've lived in Ward 3. My 2 older daughters have graduated from Marion Independent. In fact, one of them, her birthday is today, so I'm giving up cake and ice cream to come do this with you guys tonight. Then my oldest daughter is at Iowa, and then my youngest daughter is at FMI. I'm a residential real estate agent with Skogman for the last 10 years, and I've truly enjoyed being on the city council for the last 4 years. That's one of the reasons why I got on or ran for city council 4 years ago, was that I was on some commissions and boards and committees and whatnot, and felt that I wanted to give back more to the community, so I threw my hat in the ring, and I was very happy to win. So thank you very much.
My name is Grant Harper, and I'm running for Marion City Council at-large position. And I think the best way to describe my background is that both my wife and I grew up in suburban Minneapolis. I went to a very large high school in that area and decided I wanted to have a different experience, and I went to a very small Methodist college in Northwest Iowa. Unfortunately, that school no longer exists, but I lived there, or I had graduated from that college with a degree in biology and chemistry, and also a teaching certification. I then started my teaching profession in Norway, Iowa. I was there for 2 years, and then I had an opportunity to go to Linmar, and I was at Linmar for 6 years. I then left Linmar, went to work for Iowa Electric at the time in the nuclear generation division. Then I went into field operations. And then from that point in time, I went into educational project management and have experience principally in large-scale project management. My interest is to provide a service to the community. I commuted for 17 years to Iowa City. That chewed up a lot of time, and now that I am just relatively recently retired, I feel I can now devote my expertise to the community's benefit.
Great, thank you very much. So we'll go right back to you, Mr. Harper. And what do you think what do you want Marion to be known for?
I think the interesting feature of Marion, since my wife and I have lived here for 40 years, is its astounding growth. There has been a pull by both the school districts to bring residents to the community, and so Marion has had to respond in kind to its civic capabilities and offerings for that populace. I would like to see Marion to be known for somewhat of the gem of East Central Iowa, with immediate proximity to a larger metropolitan area, which in and of itself offers some benefits. But I think that and I think the Linmar district school district has achieved that. I think Marion as a community can parallel that and not only provide complementary services and attractiveness that will bring residents and businesses into this immediate area.
Mr. Brandt, same question. What would you want Marion to be known for?
I would say hopefully Marion is a great place to raise a family and own a business. Starters, I would hope that Marion's known for being family friendly and having people want to live here and raise their families here in Marion. And then also obviously own the business here in Marion. So with that, I would say we would need to continue to expand the amenities that we have in the city as far as parks and trails and things like that for the families that live here to enjoy, and to bring more families hopefully into Marion, and in turn that would help with our business community too, for retention of employees, to have more amenities for employees so they want to be in Marion and want to live in the town that they work. So those would be the two things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of, one of the questions that is prepared actually is reflected in your answer. If you were to improve on or add to existing amenities or programming in the city, what would you do? And Mr. Brandt, we'll start with you this time.
Well, I think we're already working on our trail system, and we're spending quite a bit of money over the next few years on enhancing the trails and improving them, new trails that are being added. One of the committees that I'm on right now, Creekside Pride for the Chamber, we're looking at recreational use for the creek and maybe a man-made pond in the future, or lake, don't know yet, things like that. So amenities could be more use of the creek as far as recreation, educational, that type of thing. I think what we have out here is fantastic too with Lau Park and the amphitheater. I think the city's been doing a better job the last year or two with promoting the amphitheater and bringing more events out here to the amphitheater, and I would like to see more of that happening now that the city has a events coordinator on staff. I think that's helping out with that too, but this is a gem out here that needs to be utilized more. I would say definitely some parks too. I know in Ward 3 we're kind of light on parks. There's a couple opportunities in the near future to potentially put in some new parks. I know with the new Grantwood Trail going through from 31st to 35th, there's some city-owned ground there. I think would be a fantastic place to have a new park for our citizens to utilize. So, thank you.
Thank you. So same question. What would you to improve on, to add to existing amenities and programming in the city?
One of the things that has struck me is with the rapid growth there has been, such as this facility, the development and construction of wonderful facilities and locations that the population, the community can take advantage of. But with residential development, business development, recreational development, all of that is an attraction, but it needs to be done in parallel with and in balance with making sure that our existing infrastructure and of all types, whether it be transportation, water, sewer, is also maintained and perhaps enhanced so that as new residents move into all segments of the community, they're deriving a benefit that is perhaps more foundational to their day in and day out existence. So the balance between operation and maintenance and improvement of existing infrastructure coupled with in parallel development of new features and attractions I think is essential in order to meet all the interest of everybody in the community.
Thank you. So, Mr. Harper, let's go to the business community within Marion. What unique characteristics of our community should we capitalize on to retain and attract businesses to Marion?
So I think the uptown area has some great potential. And I know that there's been some eateries that have recently opened up, and obviously there are some longer established venues such as the theater. I think we need to look for everything that we can to revitalize the uptown area to keep that development going, so that then what happens is that becomes a gateway, if you will, to other areas of commercial activity around the city. We live relatively close to Tower Terrace, and so the roundabout, as I call it, Cornhenge, is a prime opportunity to have commercial activity there that services the residents in that area, and perhaps draws then people who would naturally find an affinity to visit the uptown area as well. I think that we have a great opportunity, and I think the gateway can in fact be uptown.
Mr. Brandt?
Would you mind repeating it real quick?
I would not mind repeating that. What unique characteristics of our community should we capitalize on to retain and attract businesses to Marion?
Thank you. I think it goes back to what I said earlier too, as far as the amenities that are available for the citizens. I think that will help with the attraction of employees and also retention of employees. I agree with Mr. Harper when it comes to the uptown. I think that's vital for business in Marion. Not only to have that hub or that core business district uptown, but entertainment district uptown, which again will attract employees and retention. And then the reason we're here in Medco, the industrial park out on the east side of town, is very, very important to have that shovel-ready ground available for larger businesses to come to Marion, and we need to continue to support Medco when it comes to that, so that we can and continue to bring those larger businesses into Marion.
Great, thank you. So kind of keeping on that same business theme, who are the most important partners as you grow businesses in a community? And how could or should those partnerships be strengthened? Mr. Brandt, we'll start with you. Doing a volley here, sorry about that.
It's all right. Partnerships for business. Well, I think it's important for businesses to stay and connected with the schools too. And again, that goes back to what they're doing with Community Promise and working with high school students and younger to help them understand or see what they want to do in the future, and hopefully retain them here in Marion. And it goes back to, again, what I said before with the amenities and retaining employees and retaining your citizens, and for them to stay here. Hopefully my kids end up staying here. Part of the reason why we moved back to Marion was because I wanted them to grow up and stay here and enjoy living in Marion. But definitely with the schools, and I think with other businesses in town too, and connect with them to kind of work together to help collaborate and to see how to grow and where to grow and retain employees. I mean, that's what I've heard recently is one of the biggest problems that we have is just retention of employees and finding employees. Yeah.
I'll repeat that question for you. Who are the most important partners as you grow a business in a community? How could those partnerships be strengthened?
I think the partnership alignment is between school districts, is between developers, is between the city, and obviously the Chamber and Medco, in order to optimize a vitality that causes businesses to seriously investigate location opportunities here to bring employees into the area who are then attracted to the housing options that are available, and also to avail themselves to the two fine school districts that we have here for their children. And so it has to be a natural alignment between all of those entities in order to be sure that there is a commonality of objective and aligned strategic plans so that all of them are pulling equally in the same direction for the long haul vitality of the community.
Thank you. So the airline angels just delivered Miss Adkins to us. And so we're gonna let you have one question, then take another breath, and then we'll come back to you in a moment. But let's begin by asking you to introduce yourself, provide us with a little background, and why you believe you would be the best candidate to serve on the City Council.
Yes, well, thank you for allowing me a few moments to catch my breath. As always, I think I'm the person that gets the delayed flights or the overnight stays unexpectedly, so I appreciate your grace today. Colette Atkins, I'm currently Ward 1 representative. I have been on the City Council for just a year. I think many of you are aware of that. Here in the room, I stepped in to fill in for Kim Etzel when she had stepped down. And I sort of was trying some things out. It's, in my DNA to give back to my community, and this was just another way for me to be able to give back to my community. And once I got started, it was pretty cool stuff. I'm a big Marion supporter, but once I was able to get on the inside and really see how this city works, and the good folks that are doing a lot of work to continue to move this city forward, I became even more excited about my role on City Council. So I have a background in education, also military, and I think those two pieces paired with my excitement and positivity really put me in a place to be a continued representative for Ward 1 here in Marion.
Great, thank you. We're going to go to a question, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Brandt, so we'll just move down the pipe. This is kind of a fun question, if I may say so. Where are your favorite places to spend time in Marion?
Well, outside of my work, of course. I enjoy the Uptown. I mean, I really do. I really enjoy all the events that go on uptown. There's a couple establishments uptown that I like to frequent. I'm really happy about the new restaurants that I've opened up. I've gone to all of them. They're fantastic. But generally, if it's an evening out, I spend it in the Uptown. I rarely ever go into Cedar Rapids anymore for entertainment. I have friends that invite you out in Cedar Rapids. Like, nah, you know what? I'm going to go uptown Marion. I like to stay here and enjoy what we've have in our city. So, yeah, that's what I like to do.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. Atkins?
Who doesn't love Uptown Marion, right? It is so exciting down there. I have two kiddos, both of them are in college, and they happened to be home this last weekend, first time after they both left this fall, which was really exciting for our family. And as we were thinking about, well, what are we going to do while they're in town, I couldn't wait for them to get here to show them all the new stuff that was going on. So eating out downtown, was really excited to show them a couple of our new restaurants, a live theater right downtown, really enjoy that. You can't go without stopping by the chocolate shop. It's really important to have a little piece of chocolate every now and again, right? Roots in Bloom. Ordered some flowers actually for a friend this weekend. So I'm a big Uptown supporter. And what I think is really cool is the vibe. You can feel this sort of energy every time you're down there, which just it encourages me to want to be there more. We had a group of folks in from Denmark this last week. So I work out at Kirkwood, and we had a group of students and faculty in from Denmark. And I couldn't wait to bring them to the Uptown. So they were staying downtown Cedar Rapids, and I said, oh, no. Why don't you all get in my car? Let's go to Uptown Marion, and let's check out a few things there. So I'm with Will. Whenever I have an opportunity to be out and about, it certainly is Uptown Marion for me.
Great, thank you. Mr. Harper?
Well, as a recent retiree, I had to adjust some of my recreational activities, and I've become somewhat interested in photography, both aerial photography as well as ground-based photography. And so I've found that Uptown, out in this area, have become great sources of photographic content. Now, that's personal recreation. I will admit, as I've monitored our personal finances, there has been a fair amount of money spent at the chocolate factory. And also with one of the local suppliers of wool, but I'll digress on that. And with the advent of renewed eateries, and obviously, as Mr. Brandt was suggesting, I think I'm just going to have to say the likelihood of my seeking outside sustenance and entertainment is going to increase with time. So I guess I have to say all of that's on the right track. We don't spend a lot of time eating out, but that's partly just a decision on, how we manage our finances. But I can see that will all go out the window and we'll be adjusting.
Great, thank you. So we talked a little bit, everyone really talked about the uptown area. This question sort of is reflected in that. And Ms. Adkins, I'm going to have you start with this one. What amenities or assets, other than a new library and attracting new businesses, should be pursued in the downtown core, uptown Marion, to make it complete? What are we missing?
That's a great question. One of the things that's important for me is in my community, right, is having this community be sort of the destination, not we found out about it while we were in Cedar Rapids or whatever it might be. So thinking about that strategically and what can we do in our uptown area to respond to all people, right? We've got some good establishments where in the evening my husband and I can enjoy a nice drink and good dinner. Like I said before, we've got live theater, can take the kiddos there. We've got the library, and with what we're doing with the library, I think is really important in our uptown to bring even more different types of folks into our uptown on a regular basis. I think probably if I were to pick maybe one thing, and this might not be the answer that you're looking for, but I think it's this continued support of the energy around small businesses and that entrepreneurial type of environment, and letting that organically grow with the support of our other businesses in our area. I could probably pick a type of business or one or another, but I think that really organically and being strategic about that decision making and bringing our business partners in is where I am with that. So,
Great. Mr. Brandt, what amenities or assets, other than our new library and attracting other businesses, should be pursued in the downtown area?
Well, for sure, I would say the expansion of the Artway. That's a huge attraction and great recognition for the city, the Artway. So continuing the expansion of that. And another thing that has also been in the works is the plaza area next to the park. I think that could be a great attraction to draw folks into Marion. Also with some revamping of the park with the plaza too. Maybe if there's a fountain with the plaza, or maybe in the park. I mean, it's hard to say, but I think one major issue too is housing in the uptown. It'd be good to see some more development as far as multi-use or multi-tenant housing in the uptown with apartments or condos. Exactly where, I don't know, but it'd be nice to have more residents in the uptown. That would help with small businesses. That would definitely help with more, not just retail businesses in the uptown, but also some maybe commercial businesses in the uptown. So I think more attracting more development as far as residential space in the uptown.
Mr. Harper, what amenities or assets, other than the new library and attracting new businesses, should be pursued in the downtown core?
So I'm going to channel for just a moment or a few seconds what my oldest son might say. He's a millennial, I think, and he owned a house for a period of time up in Humboldt, Iowa when he was teaching up there, and he has observed that he probably won't want to own a house again. So I'd sort of illuminate what Mr. Brandt said is attractive housing in the options within the periphery of the uptown area would be beneficial to help drive local business activity in that area. But I was absolutely struck here a few weeks ago that a rather, I don't know if I want to say they're avant-garde or eclectic, but a bluegrass group by the name of Hawktail. They are all instrumental. Well, they played in downtown Cedar Rapids. And it came to my mind that I wish we had a venue, a small to medium-sized venue that could support that kind of entertainment for the city of Marion. And it would also be utilized for other kinds of community events. But I thought an event center, the Marion Event Center, would be an attractive addition to the overall plan.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go back to you, Mr. Harper, and ask you, as an elected official, how would you promote, sort of talking about unique experiences, how would you promote diversity and inclusion that would help us grow our community's workforce?
Well, so I think businesses generally have their own objectives around diversity and inclusion. And so obviously that would be something we would need to parallel in terms of opportunities that are of interest for those of different cultural backgrounds. I think that can be accomplished in part by entertainment venues that offer a variety of multicultural types of events. But in the same token, in terms of restaurants and other associated businesses, to have a nucleus of, I'm going to make this up for sake of an example, Thai food. What if we were to have Thai or Asian or Vietnamese, different cultural food types would also be an added benefit, especially if businesses are bringing in, let's say a small technology organization brings in a wide variety of ethnicities that are supporting their business objectives. Well, then that would be satisfying for that purpose.
Thank you. Ms. Adkins, as an elected official, how would you promote diversity and inclusion that would help grow our community's workforce?
So we've got some really cool stuff already happening in Marion where that's taking place. Couple of things that really come to mind for me is when we think about women-owned businesses, right? That's this idea of being inclusive and thinking about a group that typically hasn't had access to that space. And in Marion, it's pretty cool to see that many of our downtown businesses are women-owned, right? So that speaks to an environment that has been created for diversity. So I think we've got the foundation there. We need to continue to magnify that. We have some great amenities in our community. We've got some really neat programs. I think about the Community Promise, right, where we're working with these kids in high school to get them exposed to careers and get them really excited about what's happening here, so they want to stay here, right? So that continues to support that idea of being inclusive and this space for diversity. And I think we've got some interesting practices and policies maybe in our community that we don't have in others, that as we continue to really strategically think about the direction of our city, as I said before, I think we will continue to see more and more folks of different ways of thinking, right? Different skin color, whatever it might be, wanting to be a part of this community, especially in the business space.
Great, thank you. Mr. Brandt, as an elected official, how will you promote diversity and inclusion that will help grow the community's workplace?
Well, I'd have to agree with what both Ms. Atkins and Mr. Harper said, that I think we're on the right path right now, and we're have a lot of policies in place for that. And I think one of the main things is just we need to continue to be an open and welcoming community, which I think we are. as far as policies being set by the city, we just need to make sure that we don't have policies in place that discriminate against anybody, or not policies that are not welcoming to others to come to our community. I think we have a great Civil Rights Commission now, and we need to continue to keep that strong. But yeah, I think just we have a great community right now that's opening and welcoming to everyone, and I think we just need to continue that.
Great, thank you. I'm going to keep it with you, Mr. Brandt. When it comes to the capital improvement program, what are the most critical projects right now? And this has got like a three-prong question to it, so I'm just going to warn you right now. How do you prioritize the CIP without losing track of larger long-term projects, such as the Marion Central Corridor and infrastructure needs in Marion's Uptown? So when it comes to the capital improvement program, what are the most critical projects right now? So let's ask for short-term and long-term. Easy question to answer, I'm sure.
Right. Since there's so much on that. So was the question outside of the Central Corridor? Because I think Central Corridor is...
Yeah, Central Corridor would be one that's already started, so we don't want to lose track of that. So what would... Yes.
Yeah, finishing up Central Corridor is key. I mean, that's key to everything, because once it is completed, then the redevelopment of 7th Avenue can start taking place, which is huge for the Uptown district too, not only for the business growth uptown, but for hopefully some more residential uptown. Tower Terrace, continuing long-term, continuing that's great for the commercial development, and also there's a lot more residential development that's coming along with Tower Terrace. Something that a lot of people don't know about is issues that we have with our sanitary sewer. So that's something that's very important, expanding that, and the growth that the city has had to the north, some of the sanitary sewer is not up to capacity, and there's actually some areas where there's can't develop right now because there's no capacity for sewer. So that's a huge thing that's going to be coming on, or in the CIP, coming down the CIP for expansion of the sanitary sewer. Boy, there's so many other projects on the CIP. Pick one that's important. You brought up infrastructure. I mean, that's huge with Tower Terrace, and I think getting Albernet Road completed here in the near future too, all the way through to 7th Avenue, will be huge for the north side of town also.
Thank you. Again, an easy question to answer, I'm sure. Ms. Adkins, when it comes to the capital improvement program, what are the most critical projects right now? And how do you prioritize a CIP without losing track of the larger long-term projects such as the Marion Central Corridor?
So that is a million-dollar question, right? Multi-million-dollar question. I mean, as my colleague said, right, it's continuing to make sure we get the corridor completed so our business and our industry can continue to sort of grow and receive benefits from what we can see in that space. But it really is, I'm sorry that I have to agree with Will, or I'm happy to agree with Will, right? It's the infrastructure, it's all the stuff that none of us can see that's really going to make a difference in order for us to continue to do the work that we want to do in this city, right? The sewer, some streets, some stuff that's going on underneath the streets. All of those things really need to be, I think, magnified as we continue to strategically think about what's next for our city. And having a long-term plan, which we are working toward. So I think part of the question was, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We're really fortunate in this community. But when you've got a lot of stuff going on, sometimes it's really hard to keep track of that stuff. And so it's important for us, and we've put some energies in putting together that, larger strategic plan, so we know that the projects we decide to spend our money on and continue to spend our time on, that it's really speaking to the strategic direction that we have collectively decided as a city. So I think that's a pretty big piece of this.
Thank you. Mr. Harper, when it comes to capital improvement program, what are the most critical projects right now?
Boy, am I glad I'm the last one to answer this question. So Tower Terrace was mentioned, Uptown has been mentioned. Obviously, the library has been a focal project for, many years, and specific to that, whatever the go-forward plan is, that needs to be executed effectively and efficiently, so that we don't get bogged down in some scope creep, as it were. But being the outsider, I don't have the detailed visibility that these two have relative to the projects that are under consideration. So I would just comment about the process. I've looked at some documentation online, and I look at some planning documents online, and pretty quickly I begin to glaze over. And I'm a project and program manager by profession. And so one of the things that I would like to see is some higher level dashboarding that can illuminate for general consumption expenditures, progress, and perhaps simple to digest representation of project risk profiles, so that everybody can feel adequately informed about the work that the city is doing. And maybe that is there on somewhat internal basis, but I would have an interest to see that kind of communication profile be enhanced.
Thank you. I'm going to go to a question that's a little bit more of a vision. So, Mr. Brand, I'm going to start with you. What is your vision for Marion? What your vision statement needs to be, but
it kind of goes back to what I've mentioned before too. Vision for Marion is to continue to grow Marion and make it a great place for families to live and for businesses to grow. I see vision for Marion. I see a vibrant uptown entertainment district. I see out here having a great entertainment going on out here, also along Tower Terrace, having a large commercial area for the folks on the north side of town, and continuing to see the growth along Tower Terrace, and continue to see the growth to the north and to the northeast. Just making Marion a great place to live. I mean, that's the main goal I think for the city council is to make Marion. I'm trying to think of the words here. Sorry. Just to grow Marion and to make Marion prosperous and have the citizens be prosperous also.
thank you. Mr. Harper, same question. What is your vision for Marion?
So from a business development perspective, for those of you that might know of, I think they're in Hiawatha, a company called the Crystal Group. The Crystal Group designs, fabricates, manufactures very rugged computer-related equipment for the military. And I surmise that one of their customers is Collins Avionics, as well as other military customers. I would like to see businesses of that scale come into Marion, because they're intermediate size. They have a wide degree of specializations, and they would bring then a diverse complement of new residents into the Marion area. But at the same time, they may not require what I would say overly sophisticated infrastructure requirements. And so I think there's a sweet spot of those kinds of businesses that will meld well with our complement of infrastructure and community development and residential development, and take advantage of the educational opportunities for their children.
What is your vision for Marion?
So my vision for Marion is to continue that is welcoming to all people, and very clearly can determine the right fit for the right type of business and industry. I think that idea of right sizing is very important, as you had noted, and being thoughtful and planful in what that looks like. So I think if I were to sum it up, it really is the idea of creating a community that's welcoming, and we do that through many of the policies and practices that we have been doing for a long time, at least over the last several years here in Marion. So I really short, sweet, welcoming, and we can create that through some very clear strategic decision making.
Thank you. We're going to go to a question that came in from the audience, and good news, it's only for Mr. Brandt and Ms. Adkins. Mr. Harper, you do not have to answer this one because it's about ward representation. Lucky, take a breath. So, for the two of you, do you view your role as a council person for the entire city, or is your role to focus strictly on your ward that you're representing? And I'm going to let you start, Ms. Adkins.
Okay. That's a really good question, and I see my role twofold. So first and foremost, responsible to the citizens within my ward, right? Making sure that I'm bringing forward their voice in the decision-making process. I also see my work to be a collaborative team partner or team player with the rest of the folks on city council, which some are, right, have other wards that they're representing, or the city at large. So I see it sort of a little bit of both, right? Primarily making sure folks in my ward have a space to have their voices heard, but then also making sure that we're not just listening towards one voices, but all voices across our entire community, doing that through collaborative teamwork with my fellow council members.
Thank you. Mr. Brandt.
Ditto. No, I totally agree with what Ms. said. I know, sorry. Exactly what she said. I mean, being the voice for the ward, and if someone in the ward does have an issue, would hope that they come to me, or if it's not an issue, comments, things like that. But then we vote on everything for the entire city. We're not just voting on items for our ward. So we have the role for both, for the entire city and for our ward. I say this quite often when people ask me about that. We're not a large enough city where I'm battling Colette to get a new industry into my ward versus her ward. So we're not like that. So it's really a collaboration between all of us to continue to grow Marion and make it prosperous, and just have to listen to what our constituents say. So.
Can I answer that question too?
I don't see why not. Sure, you can answer that
can
question.
Can you repeat it then?
You bet you.
Okay.
The question is, as a ward representative, how do you view your role as a council person for the entire city or for your ward?
So I think my ward is at large. And as some of you may recollect, I wrote a Gazette editorial that was in favor of moving to this current configuration for the city. And as I had, now I'm going to reach back in my memory and then I'll go look at what I composed, and hopefully I don't tell a lie. But I thought that the configuration of ward plus at large would give an emphasis to the wards, just as has been described, with then a unifying vision for the entire city. Which is, and so from my vantage point, if my ward is at large, I need to think holistically about all segments of the community and what efforts are underway and how an effort in one location, how is that running in parallel with complementary efforts in other sections of the city? And it could be business development, businesses being sited in one location versus core infrastructure enhancements that are occurring in other sections of the community. So I think it really is going from specific to general versus, in my case, at large, general to specific. And I see that there can be a synergy of decision-making and coordination amongst all of the council members.
Oh, well, I'm glad you got to answer that. Thank you. So unfortunately, our time with these council candidates is nearing an end. I would like to provide an opportunity for each of the candidates to provide some closing remarks. Same structure, we'll have 90 seconds, but just anything else you'd like to say at the end. And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Brandt.
Well, thank you for moderating this. I appreciate that, and thank you for everyone for attending. I do hope that I have your support on November 5th. I think I've proven over the last 4 years that I'm not a one-sided council representative, kind of what we were talking about with the wards. I see the vision for Marion and continue to hopefully improve Marion with the voting that I've done over the last 4 years. I kind of goes back to some of the questions again, but I see the need for continuing to improve the uptown and getting the projects that we have underway finished up. And I'm very excited about some of the trail projects that we have going on. So I just, again, hope to have your support when we at the polls on November 5th. And I promise to you that I will represent you fairly on the city council.
Thank you. Ms. Adkins?
Sure, so I'm not texting up here. I had a little time on the airplane today, so I could put together my thoughts expecting this question. Just in closing, I absolutely believe I'm the best candidate for Ward 1. I still have a lot of learning to do, so I think that's important. I've learned a lot in a year, but I still have a lot more learning to do, and I'm quite curious. So I think together with my idea of being a servant leader, right, and making sure I'm responding to those that I'm responsible for, are important in this position. I don't have a personal agenda. I think that's been pretty clear from the get-go, and I think that's important in this particular role as well. Really want to continue to support that economic growth, workforce development here in our community, making sure that we are highlighting the really good things that we're doing, but continuing to put work in to move us, right, to push us forward even further. It's really important, irregardless if you vote for me on November 5th, which I sure hope you do, that you all get out and vote. That's our civic responsibility. And so if you hear anything from me today, please hear from me that it's really important that each and every one of you gets out and votes, and that you are encouraging your neighbors to do the same thing on November 5th.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Harper.
First of all, thank you for your attention tonight and taking some time out of your personal schedules to join this session, and thank you for pulling this together. It's vital that we have this kind of dialogue. I bring a diverse background, could hopefully bring a diverse background to the council. As I said, I was a science educator and coach at Linmar. I was intimately involved in large electric customer provisioning for the utility. I've been involved in complex project management, data security, and privacy-related concerns. And at this point in time, I feel that I can blend those together, that experience base, for the benefit of the considerations that are coming before council. And what I would promise to you is that I will devote the time and effort to complete comprehensive study of the matters coming to the council in order so that I can render my very best decision on behalf of the entire community. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to each of you for participating in tonight's forum. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute break, allow our mayoral candidates to join us up front, and our council candidates to take a seat. And we'll get started right at 7. Thank you.